Welcome, everyone, to the MikeDrop podcast. This is episode 23, Getting in Shape. I am Mike Truesdell and joined via the internet with the amazing and strong Mike Compitello.
I'm not sure I'm strong, but I will be strong after this episode.
You're getting in shape.
Our Michael Jordan episode.
Yeah, we're not in shape.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Getting in shape. Yeah.
Because I know that something that you've said in the past is that you got to show up for training camp in shape.
Yeah. Oops. Uh-oh. Yikes. Okay.
Well, before we get into it, there's a couple very important things. One is that Mike C has a new computer, and supposedly it's fast.
It's faster. So behind the scenes of our podcast, there have been hours of agonizing me restarting and also eliminating the sound of the fan of my computer just going crazy.
Yeah, because you were running Windows 95, is that right?
That's right. No, I was running Windows Me. Apropos one of our previous episodes, I was in DOS a lot.
Yeah,
just
right.
typing around.
C:, yeah.
C:/. Backslash. Yeah, so that's great. And what's in the backdrop for you? The background.
Me?
Might be supporting this episode.
Supporting this episode. Well, here's the other thing that I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
There's two things that are really important to say just up front so that we can say them. Or there's three. The second thing, which is very, very important, is that Mike C has dropped his performance guides for the Unsnared Drum Project. So just check them out.
Oh, thanks.
Go on there. That was like a huge process, and it probably took a long time. And maybe we can do an episode that's just dedicated to how you did that whole thing.
I mean, if you want, and if people, maybe person, hi mom, are interested, then maybe we could. Yeah, but I essentially I made these performance guide videos to these pieces, and it took a long time. And I tried to make some interesting content about learning music more generally, a lot of which shamelessly ripped from this podcast. And so it was fun. It was fun to put out. And I'm excited to be done with it and get back to designing logos for our podcast.
That leads us into the thing number 3, which I wasn't thinking about before. But since we have seen each other last, we have released our website.
Yes.
We have a podcast website. It's MikeDropDuo.com.
That's right. That's right.
What can the listeners do while on the website?
First of all, they can bathe in the glory of the text that you wrote. It's a music podcast you never asked for, but you might just need. And we have pages for every episode so far, including the YouTube link and the link to listen to the audio, and then the show notes. So those could be links. They could be things that we mention in the recording, our favorite recording episode. We made a little Spotify and then also an Apple Music playlist.
Yeah,
where people can check out those things. And as we get going, we'll be able to add even more fully fledged media content there. And there's also a contact button.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. So tell us about this contact button.
Well, I'm just saying that there's the one thing we love talking to each other. It's really fun. And we would probably do this even if the cameras were not on. But we kind of did. But then so essentially, the cameras are on though, and we love hearing from people. We had a lot of great feedback over the past, I guess it's been a year now. Maybe less than a year since it's been released. But so we've heard from a lot of people since the new year basically, and it always
Mm-hmm.
helps to
Mm-hmm.
like hear from people and get suggestions for podcasts, or even just to say, hey, I really liked this episode, or what you said there was wonderful, those kind of things. And we haven't really heard from a ton of people on the email, but the contact page, that's like the best way to get in touch with us, if you don't see us regularly. So
Mm.
feel free to head over to MikeDropDuo.com, click that contact button, and then there's a little form there. You fill it out, it goes straight to us. We will be happy to reply to things. We can either reply to you directly, or we may even just reply right on the old podcast here.
Yeah, I would love to read listener mail on the air. I think that would be so
Yeah.
much fun.
Okay. Well,
And maybe we could even get a listener to join us
that'd be
if there are
fun.
any out there.
Right.
I don't know if there are.
Well, I think if we really hit it big, like our sign of success will be that we have enough fan mail that we need a PO box.
Yeah.
That is going to be where we're headed. So
Yeah, if you want to send us merch too. Our podcast has a lot of merch that we haven't deployed yet, but
That's right.
I would love to receive merch from other podcasts.
Oh, do you think we could do a podcast swap? Like a
Yeah.
Yankee swap?
Looking at you, Glenn Gould Foundation podcast.
Is there a Jet Pens podcast?
I know what I'm doing right after this podcast recording ends is Googling that.
Because I've seen the YouTube page.
Yeah, they have a
YouTube
great
page.
YouTube page.
Great YouTube
Yeah.
page. A lot of good shorts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe those folks, we should talk to them. If you are affiliated with Jet Pens, or
Mhm,
Ito
mhm.
NT, or the Glenn Gould Foundation, or many other things, let's work out a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. We can put you on our lapel for the onesie.
Yeah, I remember
F1.
we talked about the F1 outfit.
Yeah, we need to
So
get that going.
we should get it. I was in the Netherlands this summer and I saw a lot of jumpsuits. So I
Oh,
think
really?
we easily get some jumpsuits.
Is that the
going.
summer wear?
I think
in the
it's the secondhand summer wear right now.
What's the material? Is it like a knit?
I think no, it's like a canvas.
It's a canvas
like
in
a
the summer.
flight suit. Yeah, I think maybe it's fine. I don't know.
What's the weather in that time?
Cold.
Like when you were there, it was cold.
It was cold in the Netherlands, and then I
Okay.
went to Germany afterwards, and it was pretty hot. But cold,
Okay.
yeah, unseasonably cold and rainy. Which living in Arizona, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh gosh.
So
Yeah, we should totally get on that canvas. Yeah, that seems like a winter material. Denim.
it does, but
Yeah.
you know, maybe dress for the weather you want. I guess.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, life lessons.
Yeah.
When you tune
Speaking
in.
of life lessons, what else is our life? Do we have any other life lessons before we talk about getting in shape or being in shape? Or
This
staying in
seems
shape?
like a pretty good life lesson to me. This seems like
Getting in shape.
I think getting in shape is good. I think here I'll start with something that that somebody said to me once. A friend of mine was like training to be a marathon runner, and it was so impressive to me because basically I was a couch potato. I would like practice, and then I would like watch a DVD, and then I would have like some Ben and Jerry's. And then he was training at the same time for a marathon, and he completed like a couple marathons, and I thought it was like this unachievable, unbelievable milestone, right? And
Okay.
then I saw him a couple months later, and I said, "Hey, are you still like going after that marathon thing? Like, are you doing longer races, like ultra marathons? Like, what's the next step for you?" And he said, "Yeah, I haven't really run in a couple months." And I thought, wow, how could you be so like unmotivated? And it was kind of disheartening a little bit.
Whoa,
But
okay.
he said, somebody said something to me once that he said, you can always get in shape. You can always come back and, get stronger but you don't always have this moment. You don't ever have this moment again. So,
Whoa, that's fascinating.
it's like philosophical in some ways and like kind of powerful if you let it hit. But uh, the point is like, okay, well, I can spend this time, I can spend this next hour and a half or something running a long distance, or I can spend it with, in his case, like my kids growing up, like sending them off to school, or I can, I'm really under the gun to learn this piece, or I have to be at this meeting or something, and don't feel bad about missing that training day,
Wow.
because you can always come back into shape later. You just have to, get the time and the regularity down.
Nice. I love this.
So don't feel bad if you aren't on the train yet, is the point. But if you
Yeah.
want to use this as the impetus to get on the train, go for it.
I was also just my response to what you said was that it's okay and in fact desirable to take a break. Because
Absolutely.
I was all about to come here guns blazing, saying, "Wait a minute, Mike T said, stay in shape," and then, but he also said, "Take a break over the summer," and
Sure, because
so yeah,
well, I think it's with basically any athletic thing, or like, I don't know, mental Olympics or whatever. Wait, the Olympics are
Mhm.
coming up.
it's starting at this moment. It is going
Really,
on.
at this moment?
I think the opening ceremonies began 1 hour ago, as of the time of our recording, which is not disclosed publicly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that people don't hack our Zoom.
People don't know that how long it takes us to put it together.
Well, there's a good ramp up to the recording. There's a good like
Yeah,
15 minutes where we just have to like kind of let the pressure out of the valve here.
yeah.
But yeah. So but anyway, yeah, I think there's there's always uh there's always a rigorous training that has to go on. Like if you're playing a recital, or if you're whatever training for an audition or something, there's a lot of rigorous work that has to happen. And
Yeah.
there's less work to maintain something than to start something. Always. It's like a natural
Yes.
phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So uh if you have been like working the entire summer, then it's going to be easier for you to keep that momentum. But you may not have the stamina because you haven't taken the break.
Yeah. There's a obvious sporting parallel here,
Absolutely.
right? Which is that Olympic athletes, need to be in peak condition, but they also need to take breaks, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we have this problem right now. Well, there is this problem right now in international basketball and international soccer where there are just so many matches
Yeah.
that actually people don't take breaks because the Euro Cup was just going on.
Yep.
And now there's the Olympics in soccer, and then the basketball season just ended, and now there's the Olympics, and so there's this very real idea that maybe these athletes don't actually have a break time built in, and that those things kind of conflict, right? And we do want to take breaks,
Yep.
but is there a break that's too long that you can't come back, or can you be so in shape that you can take a 2 week break and come back, or a 3 week break and come back? What are you? What kind of shape are we talking about here?
Well, my brain is thinking about remembering back to episode 1, how to spend your
Mm-hmm.
summer. One of the
Yes.
things I suggested was to have a taper as you approach like the big grind. And
Yes.
that comes from kind of the science of marathon training,
Uh huh.
that almost every marathon training program will have you build up and then taper to the race. So you build up, like
Okay.
it doesn't make sense to me necessarily, but you build up to 20 miles for a 26
Okay.
mile race, and you build up to 20 miles, and then over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, you taper yourself down. And so the week before the race, you could run anywhere from like 6 to 10 miles or something, just
Okay.
a light train. And then and what that's supposed to do is like you've built your muscles up, and then you allow them time to work, but also to relax a little bit so that they are in, like you said, peak condition. Because
Hmm.
peak condition doesn't mean the strongest necessarily. It just means you're able to use them the best.
Mm. Mm.
So
That is difficult to do, I think. Difficult to
sure.
accept unless you're a marathon runner.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's what I'm thinking about for this is like when we're talking about getting in shape, we're talking about our perception is getting in shape for the year, but it's also, you know, for somebody else, it might be getting in shape for the orchestral season, or it might be getting in shape for the concert season or something like that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for
There's
us,
all sorts of. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, everything for us happens August to May. So our off season
Yeah.
is kind of like, yeah, it's like roughly basketball season, just a little bit skewed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Challenging. I mean, but like otherwise, if you're in an orchestra, you can't really be learning scales over the course of the orchestra season just because of how fast and furious things are coming.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that maybe gets me to my first very Truesdellian question, which is
okay.
why? Like, why do I have to be in shape?
Oh
Why
man,
can't
this is a
I
good
just
question.
show up to training camp? And then the training camp's supposed to train me, right? So why can't I show up just as I am?
I don't know.
Great. Well, see you
Okay,
next
I think
time. Oh, sorry.
my answer is sort of like it's similar to in our episode about preparation,
Oh, yeah.
preparing for rehearsals. You know, the rehearsal is not the same as your individual practice time, right? And so showing up to training camp is the time to train as a team, not to train individually.
Yeah.
So being ready for the learning process is something that you can and should do alone. I mean, of course, with a coach or a teacher or something, but um, otherwise, you just waste the time of the people around you. Is that sort of what you were thinking? Like, why get in shape?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of like investment, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a chain reaction. Like if you don't show up prepared on day one, then it takes so long for us to actually get in shape. It takes long for our brains to get in shape and our muscles to get in shape and our musicianship to like remember things that by the
Mm.
time that you are really cooking, you're probably on week 6 or something of the semester. You're like neck deep into September. And
Yeah, you're right. You're
and
right.
so really the investment is like if you displaced those 6 weeks, like it probably
Mm-hmm.
would take you a lot less time to get to the same shape in the summer because you don't have as much structure,
Mm-hmm.
like taking up your other time. But so for me, it's a matter of just, you know, bite the bullet and say, okay, I got to do this and make this investment now because then I will hit the ground running in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's also a possibility that you just don't care, right? Like someone could say, well, you know, it doesn't matter to me if I'm like a little bit behind everybody else. It doesn't really matter.
I see.
And to that person, I would say, maybe you're in the wrong field. If you don't want to improve and try to be the best that you can be at something, I think that's a thing you should address.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
I think we all are trying to, you know, you don't have to be the best at what your parents or your teacher wants you to be, but uh, I hope that you're striving to be the best at something,
Yeah, yeah. The best you can be,
best you
at
can
the
be.
least,
Yeah.
and the best overall, sure.
Oh, yeah. If it happens, it happens. Like if you end up in as the Jim Thorpe of of triple laterals with 6 mallets, then that's awesome. But if that's what you really are passionate about and you want to go for it, um, then why not? Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's my thought. But for me, that's the biggest
Awesome.
motivator. It's like the biggest
Yeah,
motivator for being prepared for a recital. It's that feeling of like you don't want to feel like that. You don't want to feel like you're catching up. You want to feel like you own something. And
mm,
and I
yeah.
think the things that I was thinking about at least help me get ahead of things because, you know, if you think about anybody taking ownership over something, it's because they're probably a step ahead, or they've thought about the contingencies or something. And so then you can see them really like rocket.
Totally, totally. I mean, this investment idea resonates too, because I was thinking that if you invest the time, like you said, to get in a good place, then you can maximize the experiences that you have
Yeah.
once the music season begins, or the school season begins. So like if you can already play a little bit, and I'm looking guiltily around at myself here, then when you take that lesson, or you have that rehearsal, then you're more prepared to maximize that time. You know, you don't have to go, all right, well, in order to do what Mike T said in my lesson, I need to figure out how to do a double stroke. But instead, you can just like jump right to it. So that would be my reasoning as well, which kind of goes along with yours, right?
Oh, obviously, because we have the Agree cast.
So I was really looking forward to taping this episode, because I thought this is going to be one that has been tailor-made for Mike T here. There's something about routines,
Yeah.
structure, being
Preparation.
unfindable. I am so ready to hear what it takes for you to get in shape.
Well, it takes a lot for me to get in
Uh-huh.
shape, and because I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm as like natural. What's the inner game of tennis? Self one is the descriptive one.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, let's pretend that that's right, and I'll look that up before I edit this.
You
And
could just dub yourself in.
yeah, yeah, it's like watching an R-rated movie on TMC or something, you know.
That's right, yeah.
But the way I kind of like organized my thoughts was in kind of like the different categories of like what I think are required of me once the fall hits. There's playing, thinking, focus, kind of like non-playing stuff, and then sort of like organization, like systems, that sort of stuff. So for me, I mean, we were kind of like talking about playing a lot, so maybe I can just jump right into that. Is that cool?
Yeah. Could I add another one to you to talk
Sure.
about too?
Yeah.
So I had the same, like playing, mental, musical. What
Yep.
about also physical shape? Because that's something, as we get older,
Yeah.
is more and more in my mind. You know, there's this risk of actually physically hurting yourself.
Where did I put that somewhere? That's yeah, super smart.
So anyway, take me through it.
Okay, so
I
for
want
me, the
I
playing.
want the MT.
Oh, maybe I put it in organization.
Okay.
Let's see. I just don't want to forget about it. Eating well. Okay, I don't want to give away all my bullet points.
Yeah.
But okay,
well, don't
so
show me your bullets. That's rude.
Oopsies. Okay, so playing. I mean, for me, it's basically like technical work,
Okay.
getting the hands in shape. You know, some fundamentals things, and then like preparation for what is required of you, like lessons, ensembles, that sort of stuff. Like, what are the tasks? So for me, like technique is actually kind of fun, because what I'm trying to do technically is a couple things. One is I want to get stronger and better, and then the other is I want to get or like quicker and more accurate. And then the other side of technique is the fundamental side. And
Okay.
fundamentals is something that, you know, we all think, okay, well, it's fundamental, so we all do it the same way, and there's like a system to it. Absolutely not. One of the things in fundamentals, which is going to kind of pervade all of this, is part of going back into a program like a school is that you for worse, and sometimes better, but also for worse, you have to fit into a system. Like if you're going to school and you want to not take any classes and just practice on the instruments, that's not how this works. Right? So
Mhm.
that's like an example. But for how this might manifest in like technique,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
um, the way that I teach technique and the way your teacher at home teaches technique and the way that the YouTube teaches technique are three
Mhm.
different things. So if I'm going
Mhm.
back into studying with me, then it's probably a good idea to review the things that I've said in the past so that you can remember like what is this technical philosophy about so that I can go in and not have to, have like a rough landing.
Mhm.
So like recalling those lessons that of course you have recorded, students of mine out there,
Watch out, people.
of course you've recorded those and taken notes. Only only because we've talked about it every single rep class.
Hello. Yeah.
But you can go back and review those and have those things. Then for me, I also like having benchmarks. And
Okay.
benchmarks are a couple things. One is like uh, exercises that have tempi associated with them, or something like um, uh, Tommy Igo's Hands for a Lifetime video thing,
Okay.
where you play along with the video and he plays and it's like difficult. Um, and then or something like Jojo Mayer's video, maybe like technical
Mhm.
kind of milestones. And then there's also like repertoire that might have like
Okay.
benchmark repertoire that, okay, I can only really play this if I'm in shape. So I'm going to go back and revisit that piece and just see
Oh,
where I am.
yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yep. Oh, I have it right here. And then I have
Okay.
as my
Hit.
third bullet point for technique, if you can believe it, that's already been 2 bullet points. To start exercising. If
Oh,
you don't,
wow.
to just have an exercise routine and you to be physically strong, um, kind of like you have to be completely physically strong all the way. Like it's not like you can just be like, oh, I have strong forearms and so therefore I'm fine. Like you got
Yeah.
to have strong everything. Sorry.
Mhm. Mhm. And
Oh,
when you're young,
yeah.
just FYI, your body is pretty resilient. But the older you get, the more you have to think about just exercising to maintain your health, and
Yeah.
also, eating to maintain your health, or all this kind of stuff starts to become more challenging the
Yeah.
older you get.
So you can start it while you're young. I mean, you don't have to, go crazy on it, but you can start the routine and kind of get, it's fun because you can kind of look around and you can see some of your friends and you're like, that person was a track person in high school. you
Yeah.
know
How they exercise? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like they very fluidly go into exercising, right?
Mhm.
Like that
Mhm.
person has no problem being like, you know what, I haven't run in 3 months or something, but like here I am back in it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like that's,
Uh-huh.
I think, you can see those people like, oh, that's an athlete.
Yeah,
you know
totally, totally. Yeah.
okay, what
So
did I
what are some
miss?
examples of
Oh,
I want to know some examples of like what's a benchmark piece of repertoire? Cuz
for me,
I've been thinking of that too, and I have this summer I was thinking, what if I tried to play a benchmark piece publicly instead of just kind of dabbled with them while I practice, which is what I normally do.
oh my gosh. Well, you did that. That was one of my favorite things. Like so inspiring that you did
Uh-oh.
was you played a recital like strictly of pieces that scared you. Do you remember
Oh
this?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was
That's
like
terrifying.
Bach was on that. Was Elliot's piece
Yeah.
on that?
It was, yeah. I'm gonna
Uh,
try to get back to it. Yeah.
but I think that's really cool. Especially at school, like the
Mm-hmm.
recital
Mm-hmm.
of stretch pieces is not a bad idea. Like
No,
you
I think
should
you really
fail.
gotta
Yeah.
stretch, and I've been thinking about it with this uh the Olympics being here. How you should probably be able to run faster than your time at the Olympics,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Isn't it
Hmm.
crazy those folks who show up and make a like personal record at the Olympics?
That's amazing. It's
with
amazing.
all the stress and all the like you flew over, you're sleeping on a cardboard bed.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
But
So
yeah.
what's it for you? What's a piece that's like a if I can play this, I'm in shape kind of piece?
For me, for marimba, it's one study, one summary.
Okay.
That piece, uh, when I was at my best and I was like playing the piece,
Mm-hmm.
I was barely holding on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's just something like it's got a bunch of marimba technique. It's all over the keyboard, and so for me that piece and it's a tape is there dragging you along anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you have to go that tempo.
that's your tempo. So
Yeah.
for me, like that's a piece that if I'm like playing and I kind of want to figure out where I am, I might like put it back on the stand and see where I am.
Rough.
But I haven't played the piece since I made that video of the new little percussion break.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
the
Yes.
marimba part for the percussion break, like that was back in what 2017 or something. I think I made that video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so besides that, I basically I played it since then. It's just been like on my music stand to see where I
Okay.
am. But then also I do think that as limited as I think the Tommy Igoe Hands for a Lifetime thing is, um, I'll put that back on and I'll
Okay.
see because it's a fixed thing and you can kind of feel like where you are with that and you can feel like okay well I'm like feeling really good with the paradiddle part but the flam part not so much and
Wow.
you might be like as tense as anything flailing around and just like muscling this through and you can't there's no teacher there to really tell you anything but if you're honest with yourself um it's maybe worth kind of pushing yourself in that way.
I love this idea. I don't know the Tommy Igoe thing,
Okay.
uh, but I
Yeah.
want to check it out because I love this idea. Because normally when I practice, one challenge is, well, how fast is fast enough? And it's like it's generally set by a piece that I'm learning or something like that.
Yeah, and the
But I love
green.
this idea, and my follow up is like, when are we gonna make one?
Let's
Um,
go.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because the green book or method of movement or something is so overwhelming in the number of exercises
You're right.
to
You're
keep
right.
track of every tempo and every exercise. Like I did it on the Buster Bailey wrist twisters once of like how fast am I compared to. It gets exhausting.
But compared to what?
Well, I think on wrist twisters he might or
Oh,
Scott
he gives
Stevens or
suggested
somebody,
tempos.
yeah,
Yeah.
puts the tempos. But like in the green book, you just like go for it.
Yeah. I think there is no upper limit.
Like have
Like
fun.
as fast as you could go
Yeah.
until your hands fall off.
And what I'm doing right now with two mallet stuff is I have this like I don't know technical thing I think I've talked about that I do with my first year students that involves Bob Becker's best.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And that's great. He's got tempi on there. He's got exercises that they're great and they get your hands in shape and they get your mind in shape.
Okay.
I've changed some tempi. I've changed some like performance practice of how you get through the etudes just over
Uh-oh.
the
You
course of years.
monster.
No, but
Yeah.
like you do it enough and you want something different or you find ways of like challenging yourself. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that's what I do. What about you? Do you have anything
Nice.
in mind? Like if you think
Well,
benchmark piece?
I pieces. I mean, a lot of them are like snare drum pieces,
Yeah, what are
or
they?
keyboard piece. Like most of the De La Cluse etudes has to do with tempo for me, or
Yeah.
strength wise. The Pratt or the All American Drummer, the Wilcoxon.
Yep.
If I can play those at a certain volume, I think for me, volume is something that's important because I just if I get weaker technically, my hands can still go as fast. They just can't do it as strongly. So
Hmm.
strength is important to me. But this summer I've been wandering a little bit more, which is why I was excited to have this conversation because, I was inspired by your technical thing with your students. So I've been thinking, well, I need to make something. So I've been exploring a lot of
Oh,
technical things, which
cool.
which has been hard because it's hard to tell that you're getting better at anything because you're just always trying a new exercise. So what I've been trying to do
Right.
is I'm trying to get my marimba playing in shape. Um, and for me, that means playing scales and stuff. And I'm trying to play louder, and I'm trying to play without looking at the keyboard more.
Yeah.
And so I've been just picking types of exercises to look at. So in terms of benchmark pieces, most of them are like keyboard pieces are mental, and then the other pieces are sort of physical.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
you said something that that's really important that maybe needs to be said, which is the like inherently to track your progress on something, you have to do the same thing twice or
Yes,
multiple times.
accidentally. Yeah, yeah.
So you have to go back, and that's kind of against a lot of my musical training and like what I want to do as a teacher, to just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, back, do that same thing again. Okay, one more time. Okay, 10 more times, and it has to be faster. Like that's
You're
not really
right.
how I
Yeah.
practice and how I teach, but it is it's the way like drum corps will generally
Mm-hmm.
do it, and I don't think it's as bad as I think it is.
Yeah.
Because you have to do like, if you're doing weights and you have to do a squat, and you want to test yourself how much you can squat, in order for you to see progress, like you should be doing that same exercise again in order to
Yeah.
see if you got better, if you can lift more weight with the same technique.
Yeah. Guilty.
No, but you
Um,
said, I think it's a good point, and I didn't ever really put that together in that clear of a way before.
mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I was thinking about doing this year, I tried to rummage through the storage, like the office supply storage things at school,
Ooh.
because
Okay.
what I was looking for is something that I remember seeing in other storage rooms, which is
Okay.
like a grade book, one of the physical grading books.
Oh,
And I
nice.
thought that if I could find a physical grading book, then I would be able to keep track of tempi for method of movement or the green book easier.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and then I just decided to do it on Excel. But it
And is
does,
it working?
it's fine. I just don't like using a computer when I practice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a me
Yeah.
thing.
That's what I was gonna. One thing I wanted to ask. This is more about me learning this episode, but yeah, like essentially, I've been thinking as I try to get back in shape and try to be more disciplined, because when I was young, I was not a disciplined practicer.
Sure.
It was all about practicing more, not necessarily better or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just think, wow, even though I am teaching this to my students, I don't really know what to do to improve here. And kind of, I wish I had a coach or something like that. So, how do you decide what is deficient? Is it
Um,
based on what you're going to be called upon to do, or is there some, like the Olympic event, the pentathlon? There's like some five events that sort of the world has decided you need to be able to do.
yeah, I don't. I mean, the pentathlon. That's like probably the most antiquated thing in our lives right now, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, what are the events? Don't Isn't the hurdles in that?
There's horseback riding.
Yeah,
I think there's fencing. Um,
it's all the
Maybe
skills.
wrestling. Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like that's the most antiquated thing ever. Um, yeah, like for us, it would be like, okay, whittle a drumstick. That's that's thing
Yeah.
number one.
Do those rudiments slow to fast to slow?
Slow, fast, slow, and then improvise on these 10 rudiments.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
yeah, with the side drum.
Oof.
Yeah, because okay, for me, I mean, I think that like I think for like to be a good personal trainer, you have to have
Mm-hmm.
had good personal trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think it's the same thing like for us, like what I do is uh like I'll go through and play something, and I'll say, "Okay, that's a good exercise," and then kind of like file it away. and then I
Uh-huh,
might
uh-huh.
come back to it and just figure out, like, just ask the question, how can I make this more challenging?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easier, right? Like, it's easy with exercise.
Yeah,
Like, once
yeah.
you have an exercise, you can say, all right, how can I make this more challenging? It's usually more reps or more weight.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So if I have an exercise, like for me, something that I really enjoy doing and something that helps me get in shape is going into the Mitch Peters intermediate snare drum studies and going to the three camps pages.
Mhm.
He's got those three versions of three camps, or wait, four,
Mhm.
three, four,
Mhm.
five, six, right? So those four versions of three camps. Um, and so I'll say, all right, one way I can challenge myself here is to play it through starting on my right hand, playing through starting my left hand.
Mhm.
Okay, it really only matters for the even numbered subdivisions, but whatever. So then I'm gonna play it through, maybe then that's reps, right? I'm playing it through twice.
Mhm. Mhm.
You could also say I want to add more weight, which means I want to play it faster. So I'm going to click
Okay.
that metronome up a little bit. Another thing that I like to do is I say, all right, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row without stopping.
Okay.
Rakakakakagong.
Okay.
Bang. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then you play it all the way through and you can see how far you can get. And obviously, like, that's a systematized thing. So you could even go to sevens, right? You can go to eights, and it's really
Okay.
easy.
Yeah, I love this.
And
Okay.
then if you get to a place where you can do that, then start to say, all right, I'm going to start, on my left hand, and then I'm going to do it again on my right hand, and then I go on to fours, and I started on my right hand, and I go again to my left hand.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just asking that question, like, okay, I found an exercise that I feel like challenges something that I need work on.
Mhm.
I need to be able to do that thing, and then how do I make it more difficult?
Okay. So you need to pick maybe a small number of exercises
Sure.
or something that just challenges you and you can stick with it for a little while at least.
Yeah, because I think that there's something different about playing three camps the way that Peters has 3, 4, 5, 6. There's
Mhm.
Even though it's about the same length, it's something different about doing 3, 4, 5, 6 than doing Delacluze 12 etudes 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row.
Oh, totally, totally. That's more like going to the gym, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like Delacluze 1, 2, 3, 4 would be like going to Navy SEAL training. Right, and then you have
I
to,
don't
like,
know.
go over the thing and then in the water and then under the electrified fence and then, like, that seems more like that, and it's not making you stronger, it's just making you more, like, anxious.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But so I mean, there's something about the repetition of it that you don't really have to read it, like, it's something that I know now, the way
No,
that,
you're right. You're right. You can focus on the technique,
yeah, and
and
this
that
and the
is
speed
important.
and
That's
the,
really important. Yeah, because
yeah,
sometimes I'll in effort to find stuff I want my students to do, I'll pick technical exercises that are quite challenging. Like mentally, they're very challenging.
yeah.
But it's hard to just focus on. It's like going to the gym. Physically, I've decided after reading a book that I wanted to work on my weight training, which sucks. It's so boring to me. But like if the exercises are more interesting, you don't actually get stronger. Like if the exercise was like go fence that guy instead of like pick that up. um,
Yeah, right. Because the repetition, like, actually matters.
it
That's an
really
important,
matters. Yeah,
and
it
but
really
then,
matters.
I mean, you could do the same thing, right? You could say, all right, well, um, I'm gonna play whatever this Wilcoxon exercise or etude, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
play it through as it is, and then I'm gonna play it through at, a faster tempo or something. But you can also put heavier sticks in your hand,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
right? Or play on one of those bouncy practice or non-bouncy practice pads or something, and then you're working like a different thing. It's just really different. But like, for example, um, I have wanted for years uh, to practice the Buster Bailey mental calisthenics the same way I practice green, but
Ooh,
it's
impossible.
like there's one doubles exercise that like goes through all the keys and I think like a whole tone cycle. Um,
Yeah.
but it's so complicated that like just this year I've been playing it for what 15 years or something. And just this year I started to be like, okay, I've got this pattern and I think I can play through it memorized to the point where I
Yeah.
can actually start to focus on the technique. But it's not the same as green where like you could go show a elementary school student essentially green and you could just show it to them in 2 seconds and they would remember it.
Yeah, exactly. And once you have it sort of memorized, you can focus up, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So okay,
Whew.
um good.
Well, we're
Fundamentals.
done.
Well, great. How's that? Yeah, the I guess the other thing, yeah, be better than you ended last year. That was something I'm thinking about.
Ooh, I like
Right, like
this.
you don't want to pick up where you left off. That's not the point. The point is to progress through time.
Okay, okay, yeah, love
So,
this.
I mean, what's who's to say what's better? Blah blah blah. We can like talk about that, but you know that you have done the work. You know more pieces. You can play things with more facility. You can be more accurate on something. You feel more confident behind the instrument. Like those kinds of things. Just be better than last year.
Hmm.
And then I'll
Hmm.
reiterate something that we said. I said a while ago, which is you can prep your repertoire. You can kind of divine what your teacher might say, and you can start to front load work. So you might be able to start working on repertoire. Like I, I, I know this is my system, so I communicate with my students in a different way. Like they know what their jury rep is. Like they knew in May what
Yeah.
their jury rep is in December, because it's kind
Uh-huh.
of a heavy lift for them,
Yeah.
and they can spend the summer looking at this like pretty serious amount of music that they have to get done.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And if you know that, or if you have an idea of what you're working on for your recital or something, like just come in and ready to slay. Be a few weeks ahead.
Yeah. Take that.
Why would you not if you know what you're doing? Like think
Yeah.
about like the concert musicians in the world today. Like
Uh-huh.
they they do a concert tour during the year, during the season. They do maybe a couple summer festivals over the summer, and then they all have like that late summer, early fall break.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to see a ton of concertizing musicians playing concerti in August.
Mm-hmm.
It rarely happens because what they're doing is they're learning all of their repertoire for the next 9 months.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only time they have to do it. They can't do it on the road. So they're learning the like 10 concerti and the solo recital and the chamber music recital.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do in those 3 months. And that's so it's the same thing for us. Like if we could tell you every single thing that you have to do next year,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to do it over the summer.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great point. It makes me feel like a terrible teacher that I haven't been telling people what they would do the whole year.
Oh, well, that's
Um,
impossible. And it's not
Sort of
even the
puts people at a
point.
disadvantage. But I think you're right that people can anticipate and they can get ready, and just for your student to know that that's what professionals are doing, like they are ready, for this thing in March, they're ready for that in October because that's the only time
Yep.
they can be ready for it, right?
And the
So,
stakes are a lot higher in the professional world than they are at school. Like if you come in and you play a bad ensemble edition, you might not get the opportunities that you want for a school year. Um,
mm-hmm.
but it's not the same as like coming in and not knowing the concerto in a professional
Ooh,
setting.
yeah, it's like a stress dream.
That's the end. That's bye bye. Like
Yeah,
I hope you went to a liberal arts college.
yeah.
Um,
Yikes. Okay.
okay, so that's the
I have another question for you
oh no.
because this is great.
Okay.
How do you fight the boredom required? That I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, asking for a friend. Sometimes doing this sort of repetitive growth approach can be boring.
Oh, sure.
What how do you fight that? How do you embrace that? I think you're uniquely suited to answer this question. Because I remember reading that book, Atomic Habits, and James Clear was saying that the thing that separates elite people in a field from fine practitioners is the ability to deal with the boredom it takes to get better.
Yeah. Um, there's a few things in my head right now. One is
Okay.
that you have to, like, I think what you said is totally right. Like, you just have to get to a place where you can deal with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's a special pill or something, but uh, knowing what the outcome is that you want
Mm-hmm.
and having that in mind, being able to understand that the step you're taking right now is critical for that result. And if you skipped that step, that result isn't possible.
Mm. Yeah.
So like,
That's hard to do though, because our brains differentiate between this hypothetical person that we could be and then what's happening right in front of us.
mm-hmm.
Like I want to be able to run that fast, but I also want to eat this ice cream. Uh,
Yeah, but maybe as per our discussion earlier, I don't think those could be, mutually exclusive things. But um, but yeah, understanding that, like, if you're doing something and you're doing it slow or you're doing it a lot, um, having that mental image of what it looks like if you're doing a slow run
mm-hmm.
and you're a sprinter and you're doing that slow run and letting the legs, like, work, and you're trying to get your arms to figure it out, and you think, all I'm supposed to be doing here is sprinting. Why am I going so
Mm-hmm.
slow? I'm so fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like to keep the mental image of, like, you doing that same motion, but like at the world record speed. Like, that's the
Mm.
thing that keeps you going, I think.
Mm.
Is just like
I
having
love
that mental
this.
image, and that carrot is, yeah, that carrot is knowing that you haven't skipped that step at the end,
Mm.
having
Mm.
confidence in Paris, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
do you
know.
think that it's possible to develop that like or love of knowing that you haven't skipped a step for people that say like I just want to be done. I just want, I'm not going to make my own XYZ. I just want to buy that thing. Do you think it's possible to grow to love the process?
I think so. I think you have to do it once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to sell it, right? Like, do you know what it feels like to, uh, sacrifice and then, like, have it pay off in the end? And everybody, like, sees it on TV and they see Rudy, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they say, like, yeah, I love that. That's really awesome. But to really sacrifice, like, to be there in the practice room while your friends are, whatever, making ice cream cones or something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like, to do that and then, uh, say, okay, I'm gonna meet you later. I'm gonna sacrifice these 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes and just, like, get this down. And then you do that every day, and then all of a sudden, like, you go to play in rep class, and you really have, like, something special to offer, like, and you feel that, like,
Mm-hmm.
what that sacrifice actually turned into in the long run. I think that's the
Mm.
only way for somebody to really switch, is to, like, do it once and
Mm.
feel that,
Mm.
or you
I,
play in an ensemble, and you realize what, like, how powerful a music experience could be, and then you say, like,
mm.
you go and chase that. I don't know, what do you
Yeah.
think? I kind of, like, hemming
Well,
and
I
hawing.
asked the question because I wanted to know what you thought, because it's something that people like me who are interested in a lot of things and like starting new things, we generally get tired of doing things by the time it would be real crunch time and learning how to do it.
Yeah.
So just growing to love that process, that can be difficult because you might go, I already know how it's going to turn out when it's done. right? Or I already know what that's like.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
it can be difficult to stay motivated. And I think for someone like me, who was thinking about trying all sorts of different kinds of things,
Yeah.
like I already know what that concert would be like. Do I have to really do it again? Is something, but I think it's possible to fall in love with that sort of daily excitement and not necessarily feeling like you are doing the same thing over and over, but you're using something as an opportunity to constantly learn something new. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, what can I do with this? Ooh, what can I do with this? What can I do with this? And then there's an element that there's a little guilt there too, just thinking it would really suck if I wasn't ready for this.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And
Right?
I think what you were saying like really hits home. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, if I had a student who came in and said, I'm really like, I'm totally scattered. Like I do things once and then whatever, just like you're saying. I
Mm-hmm.
think like trying to focus on the same thing through different modes maybe would be my suggestion. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, go and play something, and then you play it once, and then record yourself, and then listen back, and then write notes down, and then the next time, like, just play it through mentally,
Mm.
and try to do something mentally that you didn't do when you played it through, or try to visualize what the motion's going to be like. And this
Mm.
takes place over the course of like, okay, 20 minutes of recording, and then like 20 minutes of visualizing, and 20 minutes of journaling and whatever. But it's all focused on the same one point.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
might suggest something like that if somebody feels the way that Mike C's talking about.
Mm. Mm.
Because
Asking for a friend.
yeah, because you don't want to do like, okay, well, I have to learn this piece, I'm going to play measure 1, but then I'm going to go off and do something else. Like something that was really powerful for me was Cal Newport was talking about focus, and he was saying that
Mm-hmm.
really it takes your brain about 20 minutes to focus on something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you are doing a task, like if I'm playing Yellow After the Rain, and I start playing Yellow After the Rain, and I'm not super focused on it, then your brain's first thought is, I'm going to get out of here, and
Mm-hmm.
start thinking about whatever I was just doing. And then after a certain amount of time, it's like that kind of Zen koan thing that Cage talks about. Like if you do something once,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do something twice. But if you're in it for about 20 minutes, your brain can start to focus on it. But if
Mm.
you are doing something for like 5 minutes, and then something
Mm.
comes in and distracts you, then you reset that clock.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
And that's the problem with
Mm.
like the swipey scrolly stuff, is like, imagine all those 20-minute swipes, like how much
Yeah.
time it takes your brain to process that information.
Mm.
So yeah, that would be my thought, is like, if you're on one thing and you approach it from different ways, like you're in that Yellow After the Rain for an hour, let's say, but your brain is constantly looking at it from different windows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that idea. So it sounds like uh, we covered a lot of concepts about getting in shape, being in shape, musically, physically, mentally. Maybe we need to share some of our exercises, our ideas, our sort of specifics
Sure.
about getting in shape, because like I don't know about you, but the exercises that until recently the exercises I used were ones that I learned from teachers. But there's undoubtedly other things out there. Like I didn't think to do the 3 camps from the Mitchell Peters book because I just hadn't thought about it in years. But that sounds like a perfect benchmark to test yourself. It's speed, um, it's endurance, it's easy to check, right? So
Yeah.
I think we need to share some of our tips, our top exercises. And even if it's not exercises we wrote, but just sort of try this at this speed, try this at this speed. What do you think about that? If you
Oh.
say no right now, we're going to like cut in something else that we talked about instead.
uh, okay, awkward.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Um, Oh yeah. So yeah, about the playing, like what are your playing exercises?
Yeah, or like what are some thoughts about areas to be in shape? Oops. Because I like to think of themes when I practice. Like right now, my themes, because I have to play a concerto in a couple months,
Yeah.
are playing loud, and sort of being more visually expressive when I play, and also being able to look up more.
Yeah.
So those whenever I practice anything, I'm focusing on, can I do this clear? Can I do this loudly, clearly? Instead of just how I might do it if I was going to play it alone in a concert.
Oh yeah. It's such a different way of playing. Concerto is such a
Yeah.
different way of
Hmm.
playing.
So
Uh,
that's sort of what's on my mind. So I wonder if we shared something like that. That's like themes, or top tips, or what are our top exercises, or something like that.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
for me, I've said a couple of them because I'm
you have, yeah.
for me the like snare drum is something I'll do every day. Like even if I don't do anything else, I'm gonna
Hmm.
play snare drum. And yeah, I think about these like big categories, right? Like this
Hmm.
singles, doubles, ornaments, buzzes.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna be trying to like push myself a little bit in each of those categories every day. So even if it's not super structured,
Hmm.
I'll go through something like developing dexterity is like kind of a classic book for me. Thanks, Dane Richardson.
Hmm.
And I'll go through some of that, and then like some rudimental playing and whatever. I've one benchmark piece I haven't really talked about yet is some of those. Oh, I have it right here actually. Oh, okay. Let's just see what's on my stand. How about we do that?
Yeah,
Let's
let's
see
go
what's
over
on
there.
the see what's on my stand. I've got John Wooten's rudimental reference book here, so I've been doing some of that.
Okay.
I do like wrist strengthening exercises, so I'll do like one hand exercises
Okay.
that are just wrist. I don't want to use my fingers for that. Let's see what else is on here. Gattaments.
Oh yeah.
Um, I've got this Robert Gut book,
Yeah.
and these French exercises that kind of inspired Mr. Tompkins' third book. Um, those things are just totally obliterating me at the moment. And then
Yeah, they're hard, right?
Mitch Peters. That's what's on the stand right now for snare drum.
Yeah. How would you focus on, like, if you wanted to like get physically in shape and musically in shape and get organized? All of these things take a lot of focus time. And if we think that we have a limited amount of focus time per day,
Yep.
um should you spend that on music? Should you spend it on exercising? Should you spend it on, like, what should you do, what do you think?
Yeah.
Or is there?
I mean, this might get to kind of like some other touch on some other of my subjects here.
Okay.
Um, because for me, like getting started in the year, one of the biggest issues is like everyone comes into the school year and thinks, hey, I'm so happy to be back. Isn't this awesome? There's not, the first week of classes is kind of like trash. I'm so upset at just like university in general that the first week of
Mm-hmm.
classes is like, let's all read this piece of paper together. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you some global thoughts about what you might learn in the next 15 weeks. And then,
Understood. Yeah.
and I think there's an issue in that, there's an add drop period and people have to kind of like test the waters. Is like, is this the class for me? And that kind of stuff. So a faculty member doesn't want to like, spill the beans of like some major info because somebody would get punished who's not there,
Yes. Yeah.
who might
Uh-huh.
transfer into the class. But nonetheless, I think it's kind of awful because what I want to do is like start that first week with like a very serious lesson and with a rep class where people are playing and like this is week 1, but it's essentially 1 week of the semester.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm ready for that, the only way this is going to work is if a student is also ready mentally
Mm-hmm.
for that. And part of those things that help get in, like, what are the skills that you need to be a successful student? I think you need to like have your calendar in place. Like, what's
Mm.
your calendar system? And
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of what you're talking about.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Yeah, totally.
how do you get your calendar? There's a whole bunch of other things that students need to have figured out organizationally, but calendar is one of them. And for me, one of the easiest things to do is block scheduling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go in and you have a list of things, like you do it the night before, right? Night before you go to bed, you make a list. These are the things that I want to accomplish, and then find a place on your calendar for every single one of those things,
Mm.
and just
Love it.
put it into the calendar. Like, you can write it physically
Mm-hmm.
if you have a physical one, or into the Google thing, and just write in like, okay, I want to practice snare drum technique, two mallet technique. I need to do these excerpts for the large ensemble audition. I want to play my rep, and I want to read this book, and I want to take a nap, and I want to eat the
Mm-hmm.
food, and I want to see my dog. And I could all of a sudden you start to realize that you don't have enough time in the day to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what you get good at is tempering that. You
Mm.
get good at
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how much
Yeah,
material can go
yeah.
into a day. And
Yeah.
then once you have it down, I think it's really easy for somebody to say, all right, so it looks like, you know, what did I expect out of myself? And then what actually happened?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so what actually happened was I went to lunch, and then I didn't do anything after lunch because I saw a friend and we went to the water park.
That's right.
And that's
Wait a
awesome.
minute. What water park are we talking about here?
Well, I was thinking Noah's Ark in Wisconsin Dells, but what were you thinking of?
I was thinking of the park Waterloo from the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Waterloo? Is that a real one?
Where, I don't think so, but they go there with Napoleon and Socrates
That's
and Abraham
fantastic.
Lincoln.
I
So
love, of course, Napoleon has to be involved, right?
yeah, yeah. Anyway, talk
That's
about
awesome.
derailing a conversation here. Yeah. Uh,
But that's so for me. That's kind of important. It's like, okay, so what happened? Why did that? Okay, I needed 30 extra minutes on that, and so I'm going to
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
budget 30 extra minutes tomorrow, or you go every other day or whatever. But once it's down, it's easier to manipulate, and you realize that things take time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's not really a summary conversation, but to get your calendar in place, like, what's your system for calendar? Like, are you using a physical one? Are you using a digital one? Is everything
Mm-hmm.
ready? What colors are the calendars? Like, do you put things in different calendars
Yeah.
for like that? All that system should be like used before you
Mm-hmm.
arrive on campus, and then if you think you've got it figured out, reevaluate, review your system for last year.
Mm.
I don't know. That seems preachy, but do it.
All right.
um,
That sounds like a very conclusive statement, and I totally agree. So,
yeah.
um,
But I mean, another thing you were talking about was focus. Like, how do
yes,
I mean, this is a real question. Like, how do I get, like, how do I train my focus?
yes.
We talked about it in a couple ways. So what do you think? I don't know. What's your thought?
I think you train as somebody who's focus challenged, you train it in increments. You can train your focus. Yes, we have a limited amount of focus per day, but you can train it. So someone like me, I have trouble focusing on anything. So just the idea of let me try it for 10 minutes. Let me try it for 15 minutes. Let me try it for 20 minutes. Let me try it for 30 minutes. And then the focus gains start to compound a little bit that way. So that's what I would think. So I think you can do it, and that's part of getting in shape. For someone like me, is like getting in shape to focus. Because I was just thinking, man, over the summer, I kind of just do what I want. Sometimes I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But during the year, I'm going to be in a rehearsal that's 3 hours long, where I can't do whatever I want. I
And
can't
you're
like go to
leading
the
it.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't like go to the bathroom whenever I want. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's sort of what's on my mind is training my focus, and just like what you were saying about tackling weaknesses.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what are the things that I haven't prepared for musically that I'll need to be able to do, like,
Mm,
lead a class, play this loud for this long,
yeah.
or like talk publicly, or do XYZ. So I'm thinking about those kind of things in terms of my focus and my time and my energy. So um, I'm not sure if that's helpful for people, but maybe the theme is get in shape starts with figuring out what you're gonna need to be doing.
Yeah,
Like, will
totally.
you need be like, it's not worth it for me to get in shape to like throw a discus if I'm a drummer. um
Right, right.
you know what I mean? And even within percussion, maybe it's not worth getting in shape to like have the world's craziest timpani roll if you're gonna be like playing mostly snare drum or something
Yeah.
like that. So
But and so for me, like the big thing for me to train focus is meditation. Like to
okay.
go through, because that's what else? That's like the bare bones. That's like what focus is, right? Is this
Mm.
meditation practice? Um, and I remember when I was training to do these long distance runs, on the days when I was um, like not physically running, or like I would take days where I would not exercise as
Mm-hmm.
intensely, but what I was training for was to do a half marathon. And so I realized that, okay, if I'm doing a half marathon, I'm going to need to be running for about an hour and 45 minutes or so, or an hour and a half. um,
Mm-hmm.
so I need even if I'm not physically working, I need to practice focusing for an hour and a half every day on one thing.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Practice focus.
yeah, so it
Okay.
was just like, okay, I'm going to sit here without any other stimuli. And it's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
meditation for me at that point, but I was just going to sit there, and all I was going to do was just sit there for an hour and a half, because I'm training to get my brain to understand that as a period.
Mm.
So if you can't, like, not you specifically, but if one can't like focus for 60 minutes at a time on one task, or if you have a hard time like just practicing in one session for 60 minutes, you are going to have a rough private lesson
Yeah, definitely.
for both parties. So you can start to train that. And
Love this.
yeah,
Love
one of the
this.
things that helps me to focus is like, okay, what happens if you don't have the phone for half the day? What happens if the phone, like a Cal Newport trick? I'm amazed that he's come up twice in my brain already. But another Cal Newport trick is to have, when you enter your house, that your cell phone becomes a landline.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
he has a thing that's like it's like a little table, like a telephone cabinet type thing, and that's where the charging cable is, and the phone gets plugged in and put on the table. And so if you have to talk to somebody, you have to stand there
Okay.
connected to the wall. um, and if you miss the call, you miss the call, and if you need to call somebody, you need to do something, you go to the phone like we used to do. So maybe somebody could try that, but just getting
Love this.
used to, because the phone is a really big distraction thing for me as much as anybody else.
Mm.
And then I also think there's some element of like what you're talking about. I love that. I love the, like, trying to push the focus levels. And for me, like, one of the things getting ready for the school year is like practice doing stuff you don't want to do.
Ooh, yeah. True, true.
Because there's a lot of times that you're gonna go into a rehearsal or a class or something, and you're gonna want to be outside. It's gorgeous weather. It's fall.
Yeah, yeah,
Fall's the
totally,
best.
totally.
And your friends, like, who are not in music, have 1/3 of the class time that you do. So
Mm-hmm.
they go to 2 hours of class every 2 days, and you go to 2 hours of class every 2 hours for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to practice that. And for me, one of the easiest things to do is like when you're practicing and you say, okay, I want to take a break, just go for another minute.
I like this. I like this
Just say,
idea.
okay, well, I want to take a break now. I can't really get anything done. Okay, do 5 more reps on that. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
you do that, and then say, all right, so next, tomorrow or something, I'm going to go for 2 minutes after I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yes,
Interesting. I
it's
love
kind of
this.
easy. I don't want to make a bad relationship with practicing, but it's more of like a challenge. Like, you're trying to
Uh-huh.
kind of like pull those fibers.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Love this.
Um, all right. So, okay, we started talking about um, uh, some organization stuff, and I want to get to that. But for you, what are the like non-playing things?
About getting in shape?
Getting in shape. Like, what do you need to be in shape? Like, what kind of things do I have to be in shape about that are
Oh, I
non-playing?
think mental shape, like you said, focus,
Yep.
physical shape, I think is something that's increasingly important.
Yep.
Older I get, and then mental shape for me, that takes the form of being able to focus for longer periods of time,
Sure.
being able to like plan for things, separate planning, and being able to plan and organize projects, I think is something that's important to me
Yeah.
in terms of being mentally shaped. Recently, I decided that I wanted to open my brain a little bit more, so I started reading more fiction.
Oh.
So it's been nice to explore that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Stay
because I'm not
tuned.
normally a fiction read. I'm not normally a fiction reader.
Huh.
So I've been doing that a little bit. So those are the things that are on my mind. But you basically covered everything that I would have thought
Well,
about.
I'll just add a couple things that maybe don't cross people's minds because they don't want them to cross their minds.
Uh huh.
But what about things like music theory, music ear training, history?
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
these classes that not everybody thinks of as their primary goal, but
Mm-hmm.
can equally tank your degree.
Yeah. True.
So there's some folks who maybe like ear training isn't their strength. So one thing that a coach would say is, "What was your weakness last year? Make that your strength this year."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have the ability to help yourself. You just have to like
Mm.
get down there and like lift the weights, right? Like put some sightseeing
Mm.
material in front of you, or read that uh, Polteny book, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
figure out like reread your history book and see
Mm-hmm.
if you can come in with info for next year. There's one more
Mm.
thing that's non-musical that is non-playing, non-musical for me,
Okay.
but it's to see if you can like save a little bit of money coming into the year.
Ooh.
Like
Okay. Yeah.
I feel so bad because I've never talked about this really. Like I talk about it occasionally in classes, but um, that's just been recently that I talk about money stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like if you've got if you got a little job, or if you play a concert or something, and normally you'd say, okay, I got $100 to play this concert, or this musical or something. Uh, so now I have $100 to spend. Um, that's not the truth, number one. And number two, you can change the thinking on that and, put $5 of that away into a little fund. And maybe, you do enough work study over the years, or you play enough musicals outside of school or something. And then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
that $5 every time turns into maybe $50. And that could be uh, a way for you to get that piece you've always wanted, or the book, or when you go to PASIC, you could get those hot rods, or, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. So, and if you can start now, like saving money so that you can come into the year, um, and maybe teach an extra lesson this summer or something, and then
Mm-hmm.
start to kind of change your thinking about your personal finances. I mean, that's actually like, that's kind of a life skill. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work when you're in the middle of the year and you're like, I just don't know. I've got $35 and so I'm going to, I have
Totally.
$35.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
So that was just a non-music thought that I had.
Okay. I love that. I love that. Hmm. Wow,
Um,
these are a lot of deep, deep things.
yeah, I know this is like a really heavy episode, but is
Yeah.
that me? Is it my fault? It is, right? It's my fault. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think it's like we've been talking about this when we have a topic, there's usually something behind the topic that's also you need to
Yeah.
take care of before you can take care of that topic,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
in this
me.
case, I think that's this. It's you want to get in shape, but you need to have something to get in shape for, and you need to have some mechanism of doing it. So I think I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a few bullet points left. Can I just like kind of rapid fire these?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the last thought I have is about organization, and was talking about the calendar thing, but something
Yeah. Yeah.
that you can help to kind of get your systems in place so that you're not scrambling to figure them out on the fly. Like I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, um, the general overarching thing that would be really helpful is something that Mike C has already said, which is you should read that James Clear book, Atomic Habits.
Mm,
That's a real gem. And basically,
definitely.
like it's the thing that's like when's the best time to start something? 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to be so thankful in November, December, May next year that you started these habits, because even if you fall off the wagon or on the wagon or whatever, then it's easier to get back on. You have a system for it.
Definitely.
But it really helps to have the way James Clear like articulates things and diagrams things. It was really helpful. It's very
Mm-hmm.
clear. So the systems that I think were important for me as a student would be the calendar. I think is number one, like figuring out how you do things, how you put things in your calendar, like kind of your personal operating system. So like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's like organizing your inputs and outputs. Like
Okay.
okay, you have um, like you can think about how does information come into you, right? Okay, email,
Mm.
text message, somebody talking to you on the phone,
Okay.
seeing somebody in person and them talking to you. Uh, Maybe you get a letter in your mailbox, um,
Mm-hmm.
something on TV or the computer. Like think about this, and then so if something comes in, like you have to figure out how to get that out. And
Okay.
if you can
Yeah.
manage the inputs and outputs, like if I have somebody who comes to me and passes by me in the hallway and says, um, hey, make sure that you do this for me tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take that in? And then how does that become something that actually gets done?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think memorizing it and trying to remember it is fine on week 1, but in week 7, it's not. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure that out, like how do you do inputs, outputs? Note taking. What's your note taking system? Are you doing digital? Are you doing analog? What happens? Do you put the date at the top of the page? Like these things you can figure out as you go,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or before you get there. And then like communication style. Like am I going to like can I readdress how I'm writing emails or how I'm talking to people? And then there's
Mm-hmm.
like little
Mm-hmm.
things like how are you organizing your sticks and mallets?
Ha ha
Episode
ha.
20. Um, and like labeling all of your stuff in a certain way. And
Yes.
how do
Mm-hmm.
just like that stuff that you can do right now. And then think about your organizational system at school and can you utilize it better? Could you like bring one of those, if you have like a locker, could you bring like one of those little cabinet organizers, and like could that
Yeah.
help you
Yeah.
in the
Uh-huh.
year? How do you keep track of your physical music? Is your physical music labeled? Is it organized in some way? What stuff do you need to bring? All that stuff. And then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
eating well, sleeping a lot. You can bank sleep right now so that when you don't have it later, it doesn't hurt you until much
Mm-hmm.
later. Yeah. So those are the, I think, the big things. But for me, generally, it's inputs, outputs. If something comes in,
Mm-hmm.
how do I file it, and then when I communicate to somebody, how am I going to communicate?
Mm. I love this. Yeah. Just getting in shape to exist in the world.
Yep.
Train everything. Yeah. This is awesome. Great tips. Not just tips, but great practices.
Yeah, and obviously, like I do I do as many of these as I possibly can. I can't do all of them. I'm not like a perfect person, but when we're thinking about this, we're talking about the ideal. So maybe you adopt, like, as somebody listening, the listener,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
you adopt maybe 10 of the things that we've said in the past 17 hours or however long we've been doing this.
Mm.
Like maybe you only adopt 10 of those 100 things.
Mm.
And that's great. And you may find what works and doesn't work, and that's part of it.
Mm.
Can I give my last hurrah? I have
Mm-hmm.
one more hurrah,
Okay.
which is kind of like the beginning of the year thought to everyone, which is okay.
Okay.
But and I think about this because I did have a student once who, I had come into the job, and it was my first week on the job, and
Mm-hmm.
they, like, presented themselves in a way that was very, very different than how everybody else knew them.
Mm.
Like, they dressed a little bit different when they came to their lesson. They spoke a little bit different. They wore different things. They, like, played in a different way. They were a little bit more, yeah, they were just different. And they even
Mm-hmm.
had, like, a different name that they said to me than other people know them by.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of cool for me,
Mm-hmm.
because essentially this person took an amazing opportunity to the faculty member changing to,
Mm-hmm.
like, present the person that they wanted to be.
Nice. Okay.
So I think for anybody who's approaching a new year, that I would recommend that. It was, like, really inspiring.
Cool.
That you have an opportunity to, like, kind of start over,
Mm-hmm.
and you can start over being like, a different version of you. You can start over by being the same version of you. And it's all fine. I think it's great. It's just like what we're all trying to do is just kind of, like, improve and get better and understand who we are and understand the world in different ways. And you can show up and you can be the serious worker, and last year you were a goofy person. Or you can try to be a little bit more like your musical idol, or try to be a little bit less like your friend group that you felt like was kind of taking you in a different direction last year. What are your
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
priorities? Are your priorities working or school or practicing or reading? And,
Mm-hmm.
like, what does success look like for you? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
just to take the opportunity that, yeah, you could go through the motion again, but I think you're wasting an opportunity, because once you're in the year, it's really hard to redefine things. But at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
the year, you can kind of be whoever you think is the best version of yourself, and I say go for it.
Mm. Nice.
That's my thought.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts? Did we say everything we don't need to say?
I feel pretty ready to be in shape. Actually, right now after this conversation, I feel really out of shape.
Me too. I got to go back to the xylophone here.
I gotta go, like, play some scales or something.
Loudly.
Loud scales. Slow loud.
Maybe you could go train with a drum corps.
I'd love to do that right along. So if you're a drum corps and you want some rando with you,
We should do that next summer. We should go and do, like, a parking lot MikeDrop episode.
oh, that'd be great. So it's how many on a hand?
Yeah.
9? 8? It's 8. Okay. Let me write that
8.
down.
I've never done 8.
Hold on.
Hang on. They say
Okay.
they're doing
And-
8.
And then it's left hand? Left hand first?
Hold. Yeah, we should
Okay.
do an episode with, like we could be talking about, like, whatever, and then in the background, like,
I love this. I love
All
this.
right, so what we need from everybody is we need suggestions of drum corps that we should or events that we should go to next year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because the last time I was a part of a drum corps was a year that's before my students were born, and
Mhm.
and I don't know when the last time you went to a drum corps show was, but it's probably not
A
recent.
long time ago. Yeah.
So we're kind of new to the art form, but we want to know more. So let us know. Comments,
Yeah.
contact page. What should we do next summer?
Awesome.
I might
Love
just
it.
follow you to Cortona. I kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you got to come visit.
yeah.
Um,
We have episodes galore. Well, everyone,
yes.
that's another rousing episode of the Mic Drop podcast. And just a reminder that if you're listening on the podcast app and you hear the audio, there is a video on the YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up there and leave a comment below. And you can also find us on your podcast app. So I guess that's so long for now from the Mic Drop layer.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.